We're chatting with Dr. Nicholas Dodman, the founder of the Center for Canine Behavior Studies. Tell us quickly a little bit about that group, because it's really doing a lot of good.
Well, when I retired from Tufts in an emeritus situation, I couldn't do nothing. You know me well.
Yeah, I
wasn't
do know
going to sit it back. And I had some experience with surgery, a lot of experience with anesthesia, years and years in the behavior clinic. What was next? It's the last third I decided to vote to animal welfare.
Good.
And in particular, trying to keep dogs in homes. And I thought, how can I do that? Well, I teamed up with partner, co-founder Chris Gianelli, and the two of us said, let's start a research center where we can study the interaction of pets and people, and we can help people deal with behavior problems that are numerous. Some of them minor, some of them potentially, displacing the dog from home or worse. So let's see if we can help people by just asking questions in massive surveys of metadata and analyzing them, and then putting the results out across the world to help people understand their dogs, to put out fires, to deal with behavior problems, and basically to ensure that dogs have a home for life.
I like that.
So while the ASPCA, the wonderful group, for example, Sarah McLaughlin singing, are trying to place dogs that are in shelters.
Oh, those commercials get me.
We're kind of the other way. What we're trying to do is we're just trying to prevent dogs from going there in the first place through education, studies and education of people. And we have a wide reach. We have a very wonderful group of people who signed up. At one count, it was like 11,500 people.
Good.
Who are all avid dog lovers who regularly fill in the surveys we send them. And we published numerous papers that you could read on the dogstudies.org website, including translations from scientists.
Well, let's talk about the Be Bite Smart campaign. Years ago, picture 12-year-old Arden, and I had to tell a neighbor he had a phone call because he didn't have a phone, and his German short-haired pointer, Ralph, was kept in the backyard on a short lead. Now, I'm old. This was years ago. And all I know is I stopped and looked at Ralph. Ralph looked at me. He leaped up and took a chunk out of my right arm, and he sat down. And I love animals. I wasn't mad at Ralph, but it still impacts me when I see a GSP, and it's just a trigger. So what I'm sharing is there's good news. That the neighbor passed away, and Ralph got adopted by a family, and he lived a great life. He wasn't on a short lead anymore. So win-win for everybody. But what I'm asking you is, when a child gets bit by a dog, it stays with you, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, there are physical issues. Sometimes, some bites are more minor. They just require a little topical dressing, maybe some antibiotics and a tetanus shot. Some of them actually end up by requiring plastic and reconstructive surgery.
Yeah.
And little children who are dog height tend to be bitten in the face or arms. And as you get taller, the bites sort of end up being lower down, like thighs or legs and such like. But the little kids, because they're so low to the ground and because they do silly things, which parents don't understand, are dog provoking. I mean, it can be, elementary things like a kid crawling across the floor and disturbing a dog while he's eating. Yes. It could be a kid going and trying to ride a dog like he's a small horse when he's trying to sleep. It could be so many times I see this when I walk Rusty and they meet a kid, they try and grab hold of his tail. Luckily, Rusty's fireproof and he would not do anything. He would try and move away, but some dogs would spin around, and oftentimes what I'm saying is it's the kid's fault. Not always, but oftentimes they're doing something silly. The parents look on, they think it's kind of funny. Neither of them knows how to understand what dogs like and don't like, and none of them know how to read dog body language. So part of our mission is to teach the parents as well as the children what certain signs mean.
Yeah, and give us a couple examples. Yeah, sure.
Well, this would translate, for example, most dog bites occur in the home by the family dog. But if you were outside, for example, and you meet a dog, call it a German Shorthair Pointer, and it's standing there with sort of erect body posture, standing there sort of proudly and looking straight into your eyes, and his tail is wagging somewhat medium pace with the bias to the left. You might think, oh, it's fine because he's wagging his tail. And a lot of people say, oh, he's wagging his tail, it's fine. It depends the direction it's going. So if it's wagging to the right, that's a friendly wag.
Wow.
It's difficult to see, but if you concentrate on it, you can actually see it. The people who wrote the paper describing this and sort of proving it twice, as a matter of fact, they said you can only see this if you take a slow-mo and measure the angles, but it's not true. You can actually see it if you know what you're looking for. And, you know, what do hackles mean? I mean, they don't always indicate a dog's going to bite, but it's more like their adrenaline's up. And that could be from excitement. It could be just sort of trying to impress, to increase body size. Could be defensive, but people just don't know. The wagging tail, they misunderstand. You know, you're walking along and a dog goes flat on the ground. So what's he doing? Is he waiting to pounce on me? Mostly no. Mostly that is a polite invitation. It's like, you know, I'm going to lie down. You can approach me. And most times it's perfectly fine. But you need to ask people too. You can't just assume.
Yeah. You've heard the thing, the doggy ABCs, ask permission, be sniffed, carefully pet the back. I don't know if that applies or not, but that's what I grew up learning. Is that something that's still applicable?
Well, the first one, the ask permission, is absolutely on the cards. A lot of people think that if they sniff you, you're all right. And so they instruct their children and say, you know, offer him a clenched fist to sniff. And they reach out like this. I'm going towards the camera. Yeah. And the dog and sometimes they do. They just sniff the fist and, you know, they might turn away or something. But when you think about it, dogs like us have personal space.
Okay.
And we always stay our distance. There are some people at Seinfeld who are called close talkers who are kind of intimidating. Yeah. But if somebody punctures your personal space with a clenched fist and you're a dog, you don't really understand what that means. That is not the correct way. I mean,
so what would be the correct way once you ask permission?
How, you know, if you say, like, is your dog friendly? You say, oh, yes, he's always very friendly. You would just stand there, allow the dog to approach you in a kind of relaxed posture, and he might choose to sniff you. He can bring his personal space into yours. Okay. It's just that you can't puncture his space without, you know, just without any permission. He can't give you permission because he can't speak. And also petting, you know, people say they think dogs like to pet it on the head, and they don't. And so you're right with the third one, you know, petting along the side of the chest or whatever. I mean, really the central part, the body of the dog is fine. The head, the legs, and the tail are off limits.
Okay. Now we've only got about a minute left. You're a 6-time grandfather. So as a grandfather talking to other grandparents, what's a parting message you could give them to keep their grandkids safe with dogs? Well,
I do have personal experience because I have 4 grand dogs as well as 6 grand kids.
Okay.
And they do mix and mingle. Uh-huh. And it turns out that we all know every dog very well. And we all know that they're all super low key. Like, for example, Rusty, in his 15 years of life, has never made any aggressive move to anyone, man, beast, child, puppy, or anything. So he's safe. The others are kind of more like goofballs. So we can let our guard down. But I think, you know, some of the family, like there's a couple of brand new babies who are like 3 months and 4 months old that are, you know, up and coming. There's never usually a problem in the first year of life because the children are non-threatening. They just lie there and wriggle around and they drink milk and fall asleep and go to the bathroom and repeat, rinse and repeat. But, you know, once they reach toddling age, that's really when the problems start. So my daughter, the youngest daughter, and her husband, both MDs, they think that they've got one dog who's, he's just so in love with the baby and he cuddles up and all that kind of stuff. And it's wonderful. I could actually use that video as an example of what not to do.
Okay.
But the thing is, they're getting away with it. Not that they would listen to me because, you know,
you don't know anything.
Recognized in his own family. but I can see that could be problematic when that child starts to wander around and take advantages, like the tail situation, like pulling on the coat, like disturbing. That could be a problem. This dog does have some aggression to visitors visiting the house. So it's not like Rusty, who's never aggressive to anybody or in any circumstances. That dog has a potential issue, and I don't know how that's going to work out. And that's pretty much the same story with my young son, who's just had the 3-month-old. And right now it's not a problem, but I'll be watching out. And
Okay.
the advice is always be there. Never allow the dog and the child to coexist in the same airspace without an adult being present also.
Good.
Like if you go out in the garden, you shouldn't leave them. Don't leave it to fate. And, watch out for high value toys, like a bully stick or something of that nature. Because if the kid goes to pick it up like it's a stick, now you've got something to compete over, and that could end up in tears. So
that's really, I love that. Always supervise, watch out for the high value items from a dog's perspective. I'm so glad you could be a guest on our show today. Everyone, please go to dogstudies.org. They do have the Be Bite Smart campaign and more. And Dr. Nick Dodman, I love you. You're a good man.
Well, thank you, Arden. We've been friends for years, and that will continue to be so.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life.